In Dakar, Senegal, the Museum of Black Civilizations features a modern, circular design. But step inside some of its most significant galleries, and you will find an empty space. The physical objects required to tell the region's story simply aren't there. To find them, a Senegalese family would have to travel thousands of miles to institutions like the British Museum, where galleries are packed with collections obtained during the colonial era. This data illustrates the scale of that displacement. Landmark reports estimate that as much as 90% of all sub-Saharan African cultural artifacts are currently held outside the continent, located in European vaults and display cases. This statistical disparity reflects a systematic, continent-wide extraction of physical human history, far exceeding any administrative quirk of the art world. This extraction caused a severe societal rupture. When colonial forces looted a territory, they broke existing spiritual systems, disrupted political structures, and deep banks of indigenous knowledge. Look at the Benin Bronzes, thousands of metal plaques and sculptures looted by British soldiers in 1897. These historical archives and sacred records documented the kingdom's power, capturing its ancestral lineage in bronze. When origin communities lose these items, they lose the physical anchors of their identity. The rituals, the oral histories, and the ways people organize themselves are missing their central focus. The modern global restitution movement focuses on reparative justice, an effort to mend fractured societies and return the living world that was taken from them. For decades, Western museums defended their collections through a specific colonial lens. They designated themselves as the universal custodians of global history, claiming they alone had the mandate to preserve the world's treasures. This relied on the claim that developing nations lacked the financial or technical resources to protect their own heritage properly. Today, the roadblocks are legal. The British Museum Act of 1963, for instance, is a domestic law that forbids the museum from returning almost anything in its collection, acting as a statutory shield. That act currently blockades the Parthenon marbles. Removed from Athens in the early 19th century, these sculptures remain in London despite decades of requests from the Greek government for their return. Colonized nations are fighting more than historical prejudice. They are combating active legal frameworks designed to maintain the colonial status quo. However, these legal barriers are beginning to dissolve as countries of origin utilize international legal and diplomatic channels to reclaim their heritage. Consider the Chola-era copper plates. These are 1,000-year-old records vital to Tamil heritage that were taken to the Netherlands over 3 centuries ago. Reclaiming them required a 14-year diplomatic process. India utilized a specialized intergovernmental committee at UNESCO, maintaining continuous pressure to move the plates from a Dutch university library back to India. The return of the Chola plates proves that geopolitical power dynamics are shifting, forcing former empires to the negotiating table. Physical return is only the first step. Museums must also change how they curate history and explain the objects that remain. Singapore's Asian Civilizations Museum demonstrates how a decolonized museum operates in practice. They have moved away from the colonial approach of viewing cultures in isolation. Instead, they prioritize cross-cultural storytelling, collaborating directly with local artisans and communities to explain the living context of their exhibits. The museum also proactively reviews the provenance of its entire collection. When they discovered an 11th century sculpture had been illegally removed from India, they returned it to the Indian government. This shift moves the museum away from being a room of trophies and toward becoming an honest, collaborative storyteller. This ethical shift is now moving beyond museums and into the global tourism industry. These are the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's criteria C3 and C4. Together, they form a strict ethical standard for cultural tourism operations. These criteria forbid the performative staging of indigenous culture and strictly outlaw the trade, sale, or display of illicit historical artifacts. Under this standard, tour operators and hotels must act as active guardians of their supply chains, ensuring they do not exploit or commercialize local heritage inappropriately. The victory of the restitution movement extends beyond emptying display cases. Its true measure lies in ensuring human history remains a living, breathing heritage that belongs to the people who created it.